This is the lesson video for Chapter 3, Part 2. Here we're going to cover the sort the rows retrieved by a query. We're going to look at the order by clause. Here we come up to our first sort example. So we're going to get the last name, salary, commission percent from employees, where job ID in SA_man, MK_man, and we're going to sort by last name. So in order to sort, we use the keywords order by. So by using the keywords order by, we're sorting by the column we specified, in this case last name. So we run this query, and our results are sorted by last name. So we look at our results, we'll see that they're sorted by last name. Okay. If we don't specify anything, whether it's ascending or descending, the default is going to be ascending. Alright, so we didn't specify anything, and it'll be ascending because it's a default. Alright, we have another example of a sort. And in this case, we're gonna pick all these columns from the employees table, and we're gonna pick this condition, and we're gonna sort by employee value. Alright, so we don't have employee value, but it still does their sort by employee value. So let me just add employee value. Oh no, it does have employee value, employment value. So that's where it's where the sort happens. So it's, if we don't specify, and the default is ascending, so we go from the lowest to the highest. Okay. Now we order by positional sorting, and in this case, in this example, we're going to pull this pretty much the same information, and we're going to order by 2. What that means, we're going to order by the second column, and our second column in this example is hire date. So we're going to order by hire date. We're going to sort by hire date. Sometimes it's easier to specify the column number than to spell it out. So easier to read, easier to write. So we sort by hire date, and it's, as you can see, it's been sorted in ascending order by hire date. Now we specify the way we want it sorted in our next example. So we pull pretty much the same columns from the employees table. We have this condition, and first we're going to sort by ID, and this is descending order. So it's from highest to lowest, and then we have last name, and we don't specify anything after last name, so it's ascending. And then we specify the third column, which will be hire date, and that's in descending order. Okay, so let's run that. So we sort by 3 columns. First we sort by job ID, and it's in descending order, so it's from highest to lowest. And then again we sort by last name, which is in ascending order, it's from lowest to highest. And then we sort by column 3, which is hire date, and that's in descending order. So we sorted 3 columns. Now we come to ampersand substitution. Sometimes queries differ very slightly, and it is desirable to have a more generic form of the query that has a variable or placeholder defined that can be substituted at runtime. Oracle offers this functionality in the form of ampersand substitution. Alright, so we come to the first example of ampersand substitution. And we pull the 3 columns from the employees table, where last name, we have the ampersand and we have the column of last name. So having the ampersand means that Oracle is going to ask the user to enter the value for last name, and it's also going to ask the user to enter an employee number. So let me look at employees. Let me just look at a number 147. Okay, so I'm going to run this, and I know that there's an employee by last name King. Remember, you got to specify the exact same case, and it's in the employees table, last name is mixed case, so I'm going to put King, and then I'm going to put employee 147, and I get the employees with King and the employees with the employee ID of 147. Okay, we were using OR, so any of these 2 conditions are met, it'll retrieve the record. Right, so by putting the ampersand before the column name, it'll ask the user to enter the column name, the column value. So sometimes, like the previous slide said, sometimes we need slight changes in our SQL statement, and we leave it to the user to enter. We leave it to the user to enter the values. Okay, now we go to the double ampersand substitution. And this example is a little harder to understand and explain, so I'm going to try to do my best. So this example is trying to tell us to use a descriptive name for when we're requesting a value, because here we ask the user to enter a value for last name, and we name it search, and then we ask the user again to enter a value for first name, and we also name it search. Alright, so because we name it search, the last value that we entered is going to use it for last name and first name, and since we're using and, both conditions need to be true, and we can have, there might be a person out there that has the same first name and last name, but in the employees table there's not. Alright, so I'm going to try to do my best here, and it's like, and it's got a percentage, so I'm going to put a K for King. Let me run it, and it's going to ask me, so it's first going to ask me for the last name, so I'm going to put an A, and then it's going to ask me for the first name. I'm also going to put an A, and it's not going to give me anything, right? Because there's no such thing. It replaces what you enter in the first text box by whatever you enter in the second text box. Hold on, let me see. Maybe if I enter, let me try something. Maybe because it's using a wildcard, if I enter maybe a lowercase a in both. Enter, I shouldn't have enter quote. Let me try it again. Yeah, it did pull employees that have an A in their first name and last name. Alright. But the example here, it let us know that you shouldn't name them the same because the second one is going to override the first one. Now we come to substituting column names. So let's look at our next example. Okay, so here we're gonna pull some columns from employees where job ID and these values, and it's gonna ask the user for the column name to sort by. So we're gonna sort. It's gonna ask the name of the third column. I'm sorry, I hadn't seen this, but we're gonna enter the name for the third column, and it's gonna use that entry into the sort. So I'm gonna run this, and I'm gonna use we already have first name, so I'm gonna use last name. And it gave us a first name, job ID, and last name. And we specify the third column, and also use the entry to order or sort by the third column. So if we look down here, it's sorted by the third column. Now what you enter here with a double ampersand, it stays in memory. So if you run these again, it'll use the last what the user entered. So let me see, let me try it again. Yeah, so it doesn't ask the user again because it's stored in memory what you entered here. So in order to erase that, we go ahead and do undefined, and we undefine the name that we entered here. So we go and undefine COL. So once I undefine and I run this again, it was erased from memory, and we can enter again last name. Alright, so if you ever run something like this, make sure you undefine after you've finished doing what you need to do. Let's see, give me an error. Alright, so we're going to move on. Okay, here where we undefine. Now we come to substituting expressions and text. So basically we start with the code, and then the rest of the code we're going to leave it up to the user to enter. So I'm going to copy the code from below. I can just copy and paste it, I don't have to type it out. So I'm going to run this, and remember it's going to ask the user for the rest of the code. So I'm going to enter the rest of the code, which I copy and pasted from below, and it did the SQL statement that we entered. And this might be used, could be used, you know, and you can use it daily on your all the stuff that we've seen so far can be used in your management of a database when you work, you know, full-time doing this. now we have another example of double ampersand. And again, we need similar to the one earlier, where we specify the column name, and we define the column name, in other words, with the double ampersand, and then it's going to use it later on to sort. So I'm gonna run, and I'm gonna enter last name. And remember, when you define, let me see, I think it let me undefine column name. Okay, and then run it. So for column name, I'm going to put first name, and it went ahead and used the column I specified and sorted by the column I specified. Remember, this gets stored in memory when you use the double ampersand. You define a name. In this case, we define column name, and we define it as first name. So next time we run this and we use COL name, it's gonna use the previous value we've entered. It's not gonna ask you. So if you want to use a new one, you need to undefine it. Sometimes you might need to have it stored in memory for a while. Sometimes you might need to change it, so you need to undefine if you need to enter a new value. This is the end of the lesson video for chapter 3, part 2. Thank you for watching.